Morning, folks. I'm barely awake here. The storms last night, the winds, the soft winds went over. Oh, man. Gentle rains, rather, went over. And they were just so soft, I wished I'd had the awning out to keep stuff outside a little drier. But the winds came up and rocked the place. Wow. It's just so dynamic. This is not what's expected. I don't know what it's like in your neck of the woods, but that's what it's like here. And it is approximately 6 o'clock in the morning, so yes, I'm getting up a little late. It means I got a real good night's sleep last night. I only got up once or twice for the dog, and of course, she decides she's going to give me a bath early this morning, licking me. I think my whole arm got bathed. And then after that, letting her out, she decides we're going to play. I had a cat, Curly. Curly would watch me sleep. He'd be about 1.5 feet from my face, sitting there on the bed watching me intently, waiting for movement in my eyes. Once in a while I'd catch him and I'd keep my eyes closed for a little bit. But the moment my eyes opened, he would attack me. It's time to play. You're going to play with me. Good Lord. And if I didn't, and he wanted to be kind of roughhoused, he wanted to be really rubbed hard, especially on his head and stuff. He wanted to be, petted kind of roughly. And I didn't do it one morning. He got this wild look in his eyes and he attacked me. He put his teeth into my forearm. I couldn't believe it. It's like, you're going to play with me or else, buddy. I miss that cat. He would come when I would call him. He would sit for me. I actually had got him to the point where he was using the toilet. Yeah, you can do that. I did that with him, using the kitty litter and saran wrap in the box. Just little shifts over time, and got to the point where he'd get up on the pot, do his business in it, take a look at it, and walk off. I did not teach him how to flush that toilet because I know that he would have been playing with the water forever, and water bills are already high enough. Well, at least they were back then. As I go to sleep, I get flooded with all kinds of thoughts, and it reminds me of a common hallucination. When on the onset of sleep, we will imagine things, hallucinate. And I thought, boy, I can't even remember the name, but I do. Hypnagogic hallucinations. As we're hypnotized and going to sleep, we will conjure up things, sometimes pleasant visions, hopefully, sometimes not so pleasant. And the same happens on waking, by the way. So these are incredible times of inspiration, creativity, imagination, and sometimes it's kind of horror. Sometimes we come up with some really weird things. We aren't very free as a people on the planet today. I've been going over some of the out there observations and fringe thinking, one of them being flat earth, and the other one being the transgenders. When we age, bodies change quite a bit, and for women, the bodies change a lot. They don't have as much body fat as what they had in their prime years of childbearing, because they don't need it. Some of them have more, but some of them lose that too. So a lot of and another thing I know is that some people have got different genetics, and they're prone to more slenderness than others, and you really just can't tell. So the stuff that's being touted and bandied about, take with a grain of salt. We really don't know. We really can't know unless we actually do a physical examination of particular areas, and that's all there is to it. Or I suppose if we might be able to come up with a genetic test where we could test some of the cells, skin cells or something, saliva. That's got to be able to tell it for sure, since that's genetic testing. But anyway, we're not allowed to have a reality, have a common reality, face a reality. We're required to accommodate the other son of a bitch's reality. We're required to accept what they want to claim is real and truthful and really exists out of politeness, lest we offend somebody else. How can you ever know truth if that's the case? You can't. How can you ever administer justice if that's the case? You can't. And so they are screwing us up as much as they can. The people that control this planet, they control the media, the advertising. Oh, the advertising. It's absolutely anti-white. And so we're going to get into a topic that's pretty sensitive. There's a white genocide that's been going on for more than a century now. And this is the fight between good and evil. And I'm going to explain this to you. I know this is giving psychology away, but you need to understand what the reality is. The reality is that Caucasians peaked at approximately 30 to 33% of the Earth's population in approximately 1933. And since then, they've genocided couple hundred, 200 minimum million Caucasians. And there's an onslaught. It's like a psyop. There's psychological warfare going on. They're telling us that we have to have tolerance, we have to mix and match, we have to integrate all the way across. And we have had some incredibly famous people like Eleanor Roosevelt tell us that we all need to become brown people everywhere. So we have to mix up and become brown. What the hell? I don't think that's quite right. And if we go to the Bible, and if we read it long enough, we find out that, there's a term called adultery. And it's against the Ten Commandments. What does adulterate mean? Well, it means to water down. And if you really, really are going to value diversity, then why not keep the diversity? Why water it down? Doesn't make much sense. And we've had histories of other civilizations that have come and gone. And they fought the same problem. Interracial marriage. And we have some wonderful people out there who are products of it. Very brilliant. And we have a lot that aren't. But that's just the way it is. That kind of is the way each species runs the gamut. Trying to say this without sounding overly racist, but and I also know that when you crossbreed some species, they're sterile. But when it comes to human beings, that doesn't happen. And I don't think there is a human being. I think there's different human beings. I mean, look at the variety. It's just too great. And even within a specific so-called race, there's even greater diversity within that race than there is between the races. And so scientifically, it doesn't hold much water. It doesn't make much sense. You get down to genetics and that sort of testing, and then there's some real differences. And they don't want us to know the truth about that, because that would indicate that we're a different species. They can't have that. Right now, the two greatest populations of Caucasians on the planet, the countries with the two greatest numbers of white people, I hate that term, are the United States of America, and guess what the country with the second greatest Caucasian population is? The one they want us to fight, Russia. You remember, I don't know, maybe you haven't heard this, but you've heard the sayings, no more brother wars. They get us to fight our brothers. That's literally quite accurate. It's very true. That's what the world wars were about, to get us to fight our brothers, to reduce our numbers, so that the evil one and their children could take over. And they are in greater numbers today than ever before. And the sad part is that we've been hoodwinked. We're being scammed. We're being managed by a group of people that hides behind other minorities and among them. And those minorities are being exploited as much or more. So the whole place is full of lies. There's not much truth across the planet. If we read the Bible carefully, we'll realize there are different phrases, different words for men and man. And why is that? I mean, you have different phrases, different idioms, colloquialisms, different terms, different words. Why? It's because the Bible differentiates further than what we do today. They didn't use the terms white, black, yellow, brown. They didn't use those weird kind of colors. They didn't do that in the ancient texts, but they did differentiate. And so they had two different words for Adam kind, Adam, and they had two different words for the other kind of man, the Enosh or Enoshwi. And if we look in Strong's Concordance, and it could be flawed, it's Strong's Concordance, he could have made errors, he was a human being, we see that Adam or Adam kind was considered the noble or radiant man, and that the Enosh or Enoshwi were considered the less noble man or the earthy man. If we look at it carefully enough, we realize that the earthy man was here first. They've been on the planet longer. My take on it is that the Enoshwi were here, and then the white devils arrived. The Chinese recorded this. Their word for Caucasian is white devil. That's what it translates to it literally. So it's my belief that the Chinese used that word for a reason. They had a species of Caucasoid, of white, that was big and terrible. They were bigger than the other Enosh and Enoshwi on the planet. Much bigger. And perhaps they even ate human beings. Maybe this group that arrived on the planet or was cast here ate Chinamen. Maybe it was cannibalistic to a certain extent. Maybe they were a little taller, a little bigger, had much more strength and more leverage, and could do more damage to a body. They could prevail in man-to-man combat because they were so much larger. And maybe the Chinese started a religion. Maybe they called these people dragons, and they started the dragon religion. And then we look over at what happened in Egypt, and we have these pictures, these carvings of huge men on thrones, big dudes. And you've got regular humans in front of them looking puny and small. And of course we were told, that's just has to do with their influence and status and stature. That doesn't have anything to do with real physicalness or anything. It's just symbolic. What if there were giants in those days, just like it said in the Bible? And what if these pharaohs with these long caps, that go up, just like the Pope's cap, goes up. If you look at it a certain way, it looks like the head of a fish. It used to have two eyes on the front of it. But they decided that that was too obvious, that you would be able to tell that their god was really the fish god, Dagon. Dagon's in the Bible. It's the fish god. They had a couple of fish eyes on that mitre, or whatever you want to call the Pope's hat. And the Egyptians, from what we can tell, they wore the same thing. And they had bulbous brains sticking out, large brains. And we find those skulls around the planet, especially down in the Paracas skulls in South America. And these things had different skulls. Skull type is one of the greatest differentiators of species. They had different parietal lobes, different bone structure in their skulls. And their brains, I mean, the skulls are there. The brains were approximately 25% larger, 25% greater mass than what most of us Caucasoids have. And in case you're wondering, as far as modern man today, the biggest brain isn't the white brain, isn't the black brain, isn't the, well, I don't know. I guess they are. They are descendants of the Mongoloids. The biggest brains are in Alaska, in the natives up north, the whale hunters. They've got the most mass to their brains. Like, it's bigger. I can't remember the exact weights, but they've got bigger, heavier brains on average than Caucasians have. Why is that? Today we have got a melting pot. We don't have giants running around, but you can see that there are remnants of that, there's observations of that. One of those things is that in the Bible we were told that these guys had 6 fingers and 6 toes. It is mentioned in the Bible that he had 6-fingered men. And then in the ancient literature, the ancient stories, we're told that these 6-fingered people, not 5, but 6, these were the rulers, the ruling class, maybe a predatory class on top of that, and that they were some people to be feared. And so they were different than the others with just 5 digits. And from what I've seen among species, the more digits, the higher organized, the greater the development. I don't want to say evolution, because I think we're seeing more de-evolution than evolution. I think we're seeing a deterioration. I think that's because we've been poisoned. The bad guys that are running the world behind the scenes give us poison since birth. I think most of us are running around with a lot of poisons in us. And so we've been impaired purposely, downgraded. What the Bible, the last number given was your life will be limited to 120 years. I don't see anybody going that far. And it appears to me that we have a theory called the germ theory, which doesn't hold water very well, especially after this last pandemic. I think that the theory of poisoning holds more water than the germ theory does. I think our science has been manipulated to lie, hide, and obfuscate. Yeah, I look at the flat earth theories, and I see some evidence for it. I look at the 6-finger, 6-toed stories and writings, and I see some evidence for it. The best evidence I have is a friend of mine had a girlfriend, and he found she creeped him out. And I finally pressed him, "What's with you? What's wrong with you? You know, I mean, what's not the light?" And he told me she had 6 toes on each foot. So here we have a remnant, a vestige, an additional toe on each foot. That came from somewhere, didn't come from nowhere. Then we have these other bodies found around the planet that our scientific community hides from us. Particularly our Smithsonian hides all the giant skeletons. All of them. Maybe destroys them, maybe sells them? Just don't know. And then I hear about caves, especially in the desert southwest, in which they find mummies, mummified bodies of these big dudes. They're like 7 feet to 9 feet tall, 300 pounds, 400 pounds, big dudes, different species. Why? Skull type. Their skulls are like paper mache. My God, if Goliath had a paper mache skull, no wonder a little smooth stone destroyed him. That's all it took. Crushed his skull. And there was a new species of man recently discovered in the scientific community. The archaeologists discovered the bones of another humanoid. They're about 80,000 to 100,000 years old, these bones, is what their dating was. I don't know all the particulars on this. I just know they were just like us, except they had thicker skulls. Thicker skulls are more resilient, more protective. So, and they were called Dragon Man. They decided to give them a name since, they discovered it. They called it Dragon Man. Interesting. We know they're hiding stuff at Antarctica. We know the Roman Catholic Church is involved because the top guy from the Russian Orthodox Church went down to Antarctica, gave a blessing to the place, made a pronouncement saying, we finally know that men can live in peace with one another. Really? I want to know about that one. I think the world needs to know about that one. Why would you hide that from the world? What's wrong with you that you would hide the ways to peace? Because right now we're about to see this world perhaps destroyed. And in case you're wondering, in a nuclear war, which country would do worse, Russia or the United States of America? I can assure you it'll be the United States of America. Why? Because we allowed those little roving bombs to be built. Yes, every one of those Tesla batteries that has cobalt in it has the propensity for poisoning the North American continent for a long time. I don't remember the years, but if you irradiate, meaning you expose them to a nuclear blast, those Tesla car batteries of Elon Musk, it changes. The cobalt in them becomes poisonous. And the nuclear bomb itself has a limited half-life. So there's a couple thousand years that have to go by. Maybe, I don't know exactly how much. I don't trust the science. I don't trust any of the science. It's not science. It's all propaganda. But you can recover from the nuclear blast fallout. That land can be good after a certain length of time. But not with cobalt. The half-life is like incredibly long. So if we have a nuclear exchange, we are going to have poisons on the North American continent because there ain't no Tesla cars and Tesla batteries with cobalt been approved over there in Russia. I'm not advocating for that either. I don't think Elon Musk batteries ever should have been allowed to be made. I don't think they ever should have been approved. And you will say, well, nobody's going to start a nuclear war because everybody would die. Oh, we're on the verge of having one. One's written in the Bible. It's a distinct possibility. And you got to remember, the evil guys read the Bible and know it better than we do. And they use it against us. Anytime that they can invoke one of those miserable sentences upon us, they love doing it because they think, well, they get to play God. They want to be God. What does Satan want to do? He wanted to put himself above Yahweh, Creator God Most High. He wanted to go above the top dog. He wanted to be top dog. And on this planet, he owns it. He and his children own this place right now. I'm not kidding. When Yahshua the Messiah was here, Satan took him out and tempted him, and there were 3 great temptations. And in one of those, Satan says, I own it. I can give it to whomever I want. And you may think, that's just symbolic. Satan's not real. Well, look at all those jackasses in Hollywood who have made a deal with the devil. Even Robert Zimmerman, Bob Dylan, is on video saying he made a deal with the devil. He sold his soul for fame and fortune. He knows his fate in the long run. He's already sealed the deal. Well, folks, they believe it. And they exchange that stuff all the time. How do you think they get those positions? The Satanic Church is the worship of Satan in America today is definitely getting bigger. You have the Satanic Church. Where is it? It's in Arizona, Sedona. That's the main church, the mother church. Where's the other church at? Oh, come on, folks. It was in the news not that long ago. This is an important one. It's in Connecticut. It's in a sleepy little town that got disturbed by a bunch of children supposedly getting shot up. Sandy Hook Elementary School, Newtown, Connecticut, where the entire town participated in a giant fraud and cover-up. And then, as a reward, they were all given, their mortgages were paid off, they were bought off. And that operation was run from the White House by Barack Insane Obama. He pulled that thing off. And Alex Jones gets sued over it. Well, he's controlled opposition anyway, so he's going to go along and do what they tell him to do. Oh, and they make sure he's got enough money so he can pay out this stuff, and the attorneys get rich on it and all. I'm sorry. I don't believe a lot of this stuff has happened. I just don't believe it. You can believe it. I'm not going to require you to believe any other way than what you want. And if you don't understand what's going on today, then you don't want to understand. You don't want to know. You're one of the dumbasses who wouldn't listen to the rest of us, who saw things differently, who could detect the weird stuff going on, and things just didn't seem right. So today, here we have the ATF is being attacked in court. Good. Alcohol, tobacco, and firearms needs to go away. The director doubles down. We have had a history of a man being able to make his own gun in this country forever. It's the way it started. There were no serial numbers. There was no need to serialize anything. Why? Well, we solved crimes back then. We stopped solving crimes. Yes, we did. This police state that you have, the secret police state, the FBI, covered up the Kennedy assassination. The head of the FBI, J. Edgar Hoover, who understood who he was working for better than anybody else, probably. J. Edgar Hoover. He ordered killed 31, minimum of 31 eyewitnesses to the Kennedy assassination. And so what they did instead was they give you the Gun Control Act of 1968. They didn't solve Bobby Kennedy's assassination. It was one of his bodyguards. 15 rounds of 22 bullets. 15 out of Sirhan's magic revolver. And the door with the bullet holes in it. The LA Police Department destroys evidence? Wow. He was executed point blank range with a .22 revolver behind his head. Yes, Sirhan discharged his gun, never hitting the man. And so they did not solve the crimes. They couldn't, because they were in on it. Instead, they decided, well, we're going to give you the Gun Control Act of 1968. You know, when I was a little boy, We'd open the Sears Roebuck catalog, and I'll be damned. We had 22s and 12 gauge and 20 gauge shotguns. We had rifles and shotguns. Probably handguns. I don't remember that because I remember looking at the rifles, wanting one of them. And my dad kept telling me, no, you're getting a shotgun. Okay. Dad, I want this Browning, this beautiful, shiny, Browning Takedown 22. It was small. I was small. It was beautiful and shiny. It was pretty expensive back then. $106 is a lot of money. Made in Belgium, though. And then, of course, the shotgun was like $50. Single shot, not as bright and shiny. Anyway, I think it was about $50, $45. I remember I had to save some of my own money up to put towards it. And I remember going to the store and getting it. My dad picked it out for me. I didn't really want it, but I remember it now and I kind of miss it. Geez, the gun today would be worth more than $200. Interesting thing about it, Harrington and Richardson, break open action. I got to be real fast at loading another shell in there. It's only a 20 gauge. Turns out that the pellets actually were lethal at a slightly longer range than the 12 gauge. So if you were a good shot, you could knock a bird down further, a little bit further than the 12 gauge. Seemed like a really big gun when I got it. I was a little boy. I was really small. The country has been destroyed from within. We can mark several dates, several occurrences, but it looks like it was bad from the get-go. Looks like some of our founding fathers made major mistakes. Ben Franklin made mistakes. George Washington made a mistake. Thomas Jefferson made mistakes. They all made mistakes. I can point them out for you sometime. They made mistakes that led to further criminal actions and criminal activity in the country that has taken us down slowly but surely over time. I don't think we've ever been truly independent. And we had people like Lyndon LaRouche pointing that out to us. Now, I didn't care much for his progressive, standpoint. It was supposedly socialism, purer than communism. I didn't think that his ideas were all that hot. The idea that we could get rid of the money and go with script. Well, I guess he was ahead of his time because that's what we have. We have no more money. And he also advocated for massive public projects. One good thing about massive public projects is it joins the people together. It unites the people. I don't know if he was thinking about that. He was a genius. Yes, he was. The sad thing is that he didn't realize how much evil there was. And the FBI laid a trap for him. They set him up. And they convicted him of a political crime that technically, when you get down to it, it was a political thing. Just like this witch hunt on Trump is today. They gave him 5 years in the penitentiary for campaign finance sort of violations. They set up a phony company and they made a donation through this phony company to his campaign. And by law, he was required to return the money to this company. And he tried to do it. And when he went to do it, the company had been dissolved purposely. They purposely set this thing up just long enough to give him the money, and then they dissolved it so he couldn't return it according to law. That's how they set him up. I'm bringing that up because they don't like competition. He was giving competition to the Bushes, and they didn't like it. My dad liked Lyndon LaRouche. He wanted to vote for Lyndon LaRouche. He thought he was great. Oh, well. Far better than what we got. We got our police state through the Bushes. They really put the final touches on it. The whole family's horrible. It's worse than the Clinton family. And we've got other families that are horrible too. Of course, I can't say their names because they're the ones ruling right now. You know who they are. But you can't touch them. They own the police state. They own the courts. They own the media. My God. If this country loses its civility, there are going to be a lot of people taking a lot of other people out. It's going to be horrible. But those jackasses that have been oppressing us, these dumbasses on the boob tube, who think they're so mighty, are going to find that they can't go anywhere. They won't last long. I wouldn't be surprised if there was a new sport taken up. Who gets the biggest trophy? We've played that sport a lot of times going after trophies in the past. I mean, the bigger horns and all that stuff, the bigger animals. Oh my God. There's a Doll sheep on display at Fort Richardson in their little museum they have. And the son of a bitch is massive. Must have been on steroids. I mean, it was so much bigger than all the others. It was massive. We used to have bigger creatures on this earth. Gee, there's a cow that's so big out there. They've got pictures of the cow. All the other cows around this one cow look like they're calves. They're like half the size. This thing towers above them. It's like 3,000 pounds. Too big to butcher. So they don't butcher the cow. Just a remnant of the big animals of the past. The Earth's been through many ages, many different species on the planet. And those times of extinction and speciation occur about every 12,000 years. And there are longer periods, longer cycles than that. Excuse me a second. It's getting too warm with the space heater on. Oh, my Lord. It was 61 degrees last night outside here. That's what it tells me. Probably not quite that. Good morning. Come on up. Okay. Oh, yeah. Gotta wash me. Hey, cut it out. I don't need that much. Just be good. Good Lord. She's so sweet. So affectionate. And then she insists, we're going to play in the morning like that cat I used to have that would bite me. She doesn't bite me, but she mouths me like crazy, and I don't want it. She's too fast. I can't keep up with her. I'm looking forward to her having some puppies, and she can play with them. She'll be a good mother, I'm sure. But she's not quite old enough, I don't think. Well, I'm not ready to go through it either, but I think she's going to have some beautiful puppies. And I know the fellow who's got the championship semen to impregnate her with to get some really good puppies out of her. I wish I could afford to get the training completed that I had planned on. When those gas prices went up like they did last summer, that wrecked it for me. I couldn't do it. I would love to do it. It's pretty expensive, but I mean, I don't think it's pertinent to females as much as males, but I think the training on a male, the training that you give a male, the education, the schooling, all of the training, I think it gets carried on in the DNA to the children. The females, on the other hand, and I do think character gets inherited too, to a large extent. But the females, on the other hand, it's more inherent. It's more of a long-standing trait, that probably exists in the animal at the moment of conception of that animal. When the eggs are limited for the lifespan and all that stuff are set there pretty much in stone, if you will. And so I think the inheritance of intelligence, sadly, comes through the female a little bit more than the males in almost all species. It's Just my guess. And maybe that's the way it needs to be. I didn't create it. I wasn't consulted about it. So the creator probably said, hey, the females have got an important job to do. They're carrying the species on. We have to give them extra abilities. And if you look, the females have a lot more rage, a lot more emotionality, and they'll flat out kill you if you threaten their children. In almost every species, the female is more dangerous than the male. Just have to get between her and her children, and that's it. It's like the moose. The big moose with the antlers is not going to hurt you unless he's in the rut, in which case he's psychotic anyway. He'll fight anything. He's aggressive, period. But then you get between mama moose and her calf, and she'll flat out kill you no matter. She doesn't care about a rut at all. You just have to get between her and her youngster, and she's on you. And they're killers. They're docile animals, but they're killers then. I've been chased down one time. I thought she was going to kill me. Oh, my God. I got mired in the snow. So she let up on me, realizing that I was stuck and couldn't do anything. She had me dead to rights. I was stuck up to my waist in the snow, and she just could have put her hoofs down on me. She backed off. Good. There's some evidence that the earth is flat. There's more evidence the earth is flat than there is that we went to the moon. I'm open to the possibility that all that stuff is true. But from what I can see from my experience and the experience of others who have traveled far north and far south, we're on a globe. And from what I can tell, we never went to the moon, even though people will talk about the rocks that were returned from the moon and what they observed up there, especially in terms of the glass beads, if you will, the refuse that was launched from the sun the last time it novaed. I'm trying to use the term nova instead of micronova. Our sun does it on a regular basis. We go through particular parts of the galaxy, of the Milky Way, and it seems as though that's where it happens, that's when it happens. And so we have passed the equator. I think we've risen above the equator of the Milky Way galaxy, and that was the last day on the Mayan calendar. So you might think it's a backwards primitive society because it's in stone, and there's no other records on them. But they in stone left a record for us that marked the day that we crossed the equator of the galaxy. So that's pretty advanced thinking, pretty advanced science. It wasn't the end of the earth, obviously. It was when we went into the other hemisphere. And I think we're coming to the point where we're going to see that in order to keep the earth in that orbit, and the solar system in the orbit, that the sun gets a reset on its charges, so that it still stays in that narrow band that it goes around the Milky Way. Everything goes around in that band. And there are ripples that come off from the center of the Milky Way, the galaxy, that influence our sun, and our sun in turn influences our planet. This global warming or cooling is a result of the sun. It has nothing to do with the exhaust on your SUV. The earth produces more exhaust with one volcanic explosion than probably all the SUVs ever made. So the earth has got the power. We don't. And for us to walk around with egos inflated, which the evil ones do very well. They lie to us. They tell us smooth things. They tell us things we want to hear rather than the truth. They feed us with platitudes, just like the devils that run us, just like the politicians. We've never had a statesman. I was hoping Trump would become a statesman. He's no statesman, not as far as I can see. You want to look at a statesman? Look at Lavrov. Look at the ambassador to Russia. Look at that gentleman. Look at the way he conducts himself. He's much better than anything we got here. He really is. And then you have Putin vilified. He's just an excellent manager. The Russian people have been pissed off at him for holding back this war. They wanted to go to town on this thing a long time ago. They wanted to bring all the might and fury they could to it and get it done with. Heck, they wanted to do that almost a year ago. And he's been going very slowly, methodically, and he's been doing that to keep the casualties down on both sides. But the sad thing is that the other side, that Vladimir on the other side is an insane dude. He's not right in the head. He's nuts, and you guys are worshiping him. Oh, and by the way, there was somebody that put up a picture on Facebook a long time ago showing us the president of Russia and the president of the Ukraine. And in each picture, they had a man circled, circle drawn around the man. And you had Vladimir Putin in one picture and Vladimir Zelensky in the other picture. And by the way, Vladimir Zelensky's native language is Russian. He had to learn Ukrainian. Talk about an actor. The man is the highest paid actor in the world today. He deserves an Emmy for sure. No wonder Sean Penn took his Emmy over there and awarded it to him or something, or whatever the hell he gave him. Sean Penn's a piece of shit, shouldn't be allowed to leave the country again. Send him over there. They can keep him. We don't want him. We don't want him at all. Anyhow, you have two Vladimirs. Interesting. And each one is shaking the hand of the same gentleman. And that guy is the same guy in each picture. And he's circled. And the person who posted this stuff was trying to tell us the same handler handles the president of each country. The same man controls each country. You see, when these guys decide to go to war, they control both sides. And so the man who's shaking the hand of the presidents, not only is he the same, but you can bet he's strongly associated with the international banksters, because they're the ones that are responsible for all of these wars that we've had. And you look at it and think, well, it's just the banking war, bankers. That's all it is. It just goes that far back. I got news for you. This goes all the way back to the garden. And right now, this is the ancient hatred, that's the term in the Bible, being brought forward. And we're living through it. The problem is they want to destroy the white people. They're genociding the white people. That's what the purpose of World War I was and World War II. And they killed hundreds of millions of Caucasians. I'm going to take a guess they killed 200 million Caucasians in that century. And they've set the stage, and I mean that's figuratively and literally. They've set the entire stage so that they can have a nuclear war and get rid of the white people in Russia and the white people, I was going to say the Soviet Union. Yeah, I guess we've become the Soviet Union. And what's left of America, the United States of America, this horrible central federalized, communized government that we have. It's a communist government. Don't kid yourself. It is communist through and through. They're about ready to let you know how communist they are. They've got the power. They don't give a shit about you or me. We can't do anything about it. They know they've got us paralyzed. Them and their psyops have us neutered so we can't raise a finger against them. Even the stuff with the truckers in Canada, which we had great hopes that it might go over here and we might shut down D.C. and get our government back, they even neutralized that. Folks, we aren't going to stop them. Unless they kill us some more, and they're going to do it. It's just a matter of is it going to be slow or fast. And right now they're waging chemical warfare on us. Yes, they use chemistry on us. What do you think those trains are doing? You think those derailments happened on accident? All of those? Do you think that the stupid ass decision to burn those chemicals in what they declared was a controlled burn, it was only controlled because they set fire to it, that came from the EPA to create a health hazard, and they're now monitoring people for the effects of that chemical bomb they set off. They're monitoring people in Illinois and in Missouri. They set up monitoring places to look to see what's the impact on people's health as far away as Missouri. And you let that go on. And you have the most incompetent administration in history. They can't even lie effectively. They can't negotiate with other countries. Nobody trusts us right now. We have become the bad guys. I know you don't want to hear it. We have become the bad guys. We are the enforcers for the New World Order. Who the hell do you think does all their bidding? It's us. They propagandize us. They hoodwink us. They talk us into it. My God, the jackass next door to me is running a Ukrainian flag. He votes Democrat. They never can do anything wrong. Oh, and Trump is a Russian agent. I mean, the guy's such a dumbass now that I'm trying to treat him gingerly. I want to get along with my neighbors, and I know he's older, and I don't want to give him a heart attack. I don't need to get in any arguments and give me one either, you know. But the fact is, he's a dumbass. He believes everything on the boob tube. He believes all the lies about Trump. Is Trump a good man? I don't like him all that much, but he's the best we've got. He is the choice of the people. He definitely prevailed, but we live in a police state where whatever they want to do goes. The Sinaloa cartel has got ambassadors, I'm sure, in Washington, D.C. Even that fellow, El Chapo, or whatever his name is, he said that if they didn't let him out of prison, he was going to start naming names of the people in D.C. that take the bribes from his cartel. And the Sinaloa cartel owned the governor of Arizona, and the court system, they can get whatever they want through that state. It's always been that way. Arizona has always been a big hole in the border. You know, the Hells Angels and the strippers used to run people and drugs up across the desert all the time. I met one of them years ago who had an incredible truck, and she used to run people and drugs across that damn border. And the Hells Angels would take their bikes off in the desert and do the same thing. The Hells Angels are not California. They are Arizona. It's just business, right? And this governor, there's evidence that she and her husband have been accepting bribes from this cartel since 1997. Can't bring it to court. They control everything. They even control the prisons right now. Your legislature in Arizona has no control over the Department of Corrections. They keep wanting to audit it and wanting to exert control over it. But it's under the governor's office. And the governor gets paid off handsomely on the monies they defraud the people of the state of Arizona through the Department of Corrections. And so the governor's not going to change that. Besides, I think those people are so powerful they'd take the damn governor out if the governor gave them any trouble. I think it's a tradition at this point that the governor accepts the silver rather than getting the lead. They take the bribe rather than taking a dirt nap. Arizona never should have been allowed to be a state. It's better to be regarded as a damn territory. The good thing about Arizona is it lets us know how fucked up the entire nation is. Yeah. But there's plenty of other bad states out there. Oregon's pretty bad. California should be excommunicated. I mean, we should just kick them out of the union. I think the way it should work is really simple. You want to be a member of the union, a member of the republic, then you have to abide by the Ten Commandments, the Bill of Rights. You have to abide by the original Bill of Rights. If you violate any of those whatsoever, then you're not getting any money from the rest of us, and we're going to set up borders, and you're going to have to pay tariffs and duties to ship stuff out. We don't want anything to do with you, to be honest with you. We're tired of you. And so they have us hemmed in. We are trapped. They are on both coasts, the coastal states. They are pretty much controlled, with the exception of Florida. But I think that's just a momentary thing while you have this guy who's full of himself as governor there. Is he effective? Yes. Is he responsive to the people? Oh, hell no. He's bought up and owned. He's an Israel firster. That's the yardstick. Anybody who's an Israel firster is not an America firster. That includes Donald John Trump. They are Israel firsters. And that includes your current member, occupant at the Oval Office. Biden is an Israel firster. Your Congress is bought off by Israel. Your hitmen in the country, well, the Mossad does a lot of the hits for the CIA. CIA does a lot of hits for the Mossad. They do favors for each other. They team up together. They become lovers and stuff. I mean, it's just horrible what has happened to this nation. Solve the Kennedy assassination. You, FBI, you actually want to exist? Solve the Kennedy assassination or just be gone. I mean, I saw a video of some of the work you guys were doing a little bit more than a decade ago. It was pretty phenomenal. I'm looking at it going, my God, they're doing their job. Look at this. Look at what they've accomplished. Look at what they and the CIA have accomplished in uncovering moles and spies and all that stuff. Turns out they knew about Jonathan Pollard the entire time. And they also knew it wasn't going to Israel. It was going to the Soviet Union directly. And he should have been executed, but he wasn't. And he was actually let go. He was given a pass. He served some time in prison, and then we did some sort of an exchange and let him go. So he's out of our jurisdiction. There's no extradition treaty with Israel. Israel continues milking us at inordinate rates. We pay more to support an Israeli than we pay to support our own people. That's evil. And we pay these invaders more than we pay our own people. That's evil. My God, one of those people from South America is on her third automobile. She says they give her brand new cars. And they didn't test her for her driver's license. They just gave it to her. And they give her a check so she can afford gas to put in the car and afford food. They subsidize everything. She's got a free ride. She loves this nation. My God, I mean, if you were to go outside the country, maybe become a foreign citizen, come in and pretend you were an illegal alien, you would be sitting higher up than any of the rest of us are. It is a great injustice what this occupant of the White House is doing to the nation. Yes, they took it over using their secret societies. Yes, they took us down from inside. They corrupted us. They've got us worshiping the Satans, if you will. They've got us doing crimes against Yahweh by getting us to turn our backs on Yahweh and recreating those old sins, the old crimes that Israel did that got them deported and got certain cities nuked. That's what they want to do to us. They're wicked, evil people. And you think, oh, nobody would do that. Nobody's like that. Yeah, there are people like that. I don't even want to call them people, though. There's different words for them in the Bible. They're different than we are. So don't kid yourselves. And they've been here for a long time. And they are doing this fight between good and evil right now. And you are ignorant of it because they have stolen more money than what we have in circulation and above ground. They've stolen it and put it into their rat holes underneath, and I understand a lot of them have already gone to their cities under the earth, getting ready. They want to nuke us on the surface. They want to destroy us. They want to reduce our numbers. They are devils for sure. And who's the most powerful man in the world? The Black Pope, the Jesuit general. He's the man that's most powerful next to Satan himself. Who controls the United States of America? Man, they put up a really intricate system. It's hard to wrap your mind around it. It's really there. So we're going to end this. This is giving psychology away. We've talked about the fight between good and evil. We've talked about the genocides to a certain extent that have occurred. There were 200 million Caucasians genocided in the last century alone. And they're getting ready to kill off more of us in this century. The weapons they have are best described as continent busters. There's no telling if they'll use those or not. They've got other technology they've been holding back from the rest of us. It's just incredible technology. So while they poison the rest of us and give the rest of us all kinds of horrible illnesses and diseases and keep our lives short, they can avail themselves of this modern technology. They don't have diabetes. They don't have cancer. They don't have Alzheimer's. They don't suffer any of this shit the rest of us are forced to endure. And they've got it all engineered into the society. You talk about controls. You talk about living on a plantation. You talk about world global government. It's been here for a while. They pretty much got a stranglehold on us. In the States, we're not going to throw them off. We're not going to throw them out. We're too busy worshiping them. They pulled off the biggest identity theft in history. And you're not going to get law enforcement onto it because they own law enforcement. May Yahweh bless. May Yahweh make America good again.